Today we're doing our second part for the series, Advice for Gen Z from Millennials. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the JC Podcast. It's a place where we get to unpack and explore life topics in a confusing and fast-changing world. My name is James. I'm your host for this podcast. And thanks for joining us on this journey of this new podcast that we're doing. So today we have a special guest. He's a dear friend of mine. And I thought he would be great for this because he is definitely a millennial like myself. In fact, we're pretty much the same age. And I just thought he has a lot of insight, a lot of wisdom that we can learn from. So please put your hands together. Welcome, Paul Lee. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Now, a bit about the history behind this topic and how it came about. So I was scrolling through an Instagram post, and sometimes people do the thing where they're like, they try to get engagement from the crowd. So it was advice for essentially those in their 20s from those in their 30s. And then they were like, if you're 30 years old, answer the question. If you're 20 years old, ask a question. So I thought, I went through the comments and I found like some pretty interesting questions. And so just kind of curated them. And so today we're going to be covering stuff like career, faith, leadership, finance, and some general just life stuff as well. But why don't you just introduce yourself, how old you are, what do you do, what's your life look like?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks very much for having me here, James. It's been very excited to be here. I've heard lots about this podcast, so I feel very privileged to be here. So a bit about me. My name is Paul, like you said. I'm 31 years old. Currently, I work as a doctor with Australian Home Affairs to do immigration medical screening, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's me.
Yeah. You're also married.
I am married. Yes. Very important.
Can't forget that.
I am married to my beautiful wife, Dorcas.
How long have you been married?
I've been married for just shy of 2 years, so a year and 8 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Very good. So let's just get straight into this. So as I said, we're going to be covering like career, faith, and a few other topics. So I guess the first one I'm going to touch on is career. So you shared that you're a doctor, but you're currently working. What was the exact phrasing of the?
So it's immigration medicals. Yeah.
I guess like a very common question people ask, like, how did you get to this place that you're in, and what led you to pursue that career, or like what's your career journey in a way?
Yeah, no, good question. It's kind of a long story. So I was a hospital doctor, I sort of work in the hospital. I don't know if many people know, but you either work in the surgery field or you work in internal medicine field. So I was on the surgical path. However, it was very rewarding, but it was very time consuming. And I was at a point in time, about 3 years ago, where I needed to take a break. And also I was thinking of getting married, so I needed time to be with my fiance and also to sort out marriage stuff. So I just took a break from hospital work, and I was looking for other alternatives outside of hospital. And I came across this job. And it was just meant to be like a 6-month stepping stone, a break from the hospital. But I actually found that this is it's like a very different field, and not too many people know about it. But it was a great working environment. I'm actually really interested in what I'm currently doing. And I stayed. So I'm still there today, 3 years later.
Yeah. I guess like a very common question that those who are probably in Gen Z, or, at least who are in their 20s, they often struggle to find a career path. So I guess for you, how did you know you wanted to be a doctor initially?
Yeah.
And how did you come to that decision? What was your thinking process or thought process of that?
I don't have like a very typical answer for you. Like it's not that I've always wanted to be a doctor since I was 5 years old. It was actually when I was in year 10, when I had work experience, and I think I worked in a dental practice as a dental assistant, because like I had a good family friend who was a dentist, so I worked in his practice.
Yep.
It was a good experience, but it was then that I decided, no, I definitely can't be a dentist for the rest of my life because I just personally respect a dentist, but I can't spend the rest of my life looking into like just a very small field into people's mouths for the rest of my life. So that's just me. But I think in year 12, I sort of knew I wanted to be in a position where I wanted to help people, but I wasn't too set on where I wanted to be. I thought, oh, maybe social work with youth. I did some work at church. So, but yeah, I came across the opportunity to apply for medicine. I heard other people who are doctors within the family and also some friends who are doctors, and they encouraged me to apply, and I got in. So, and then I made it all the way to the end. So don't have your typical story, but that's
awesome. I think like so obviously you're a Christian.
Yes.
And I think like how was navigating like your early days of studies as well as your work? Like specifically, how did you navigate faith in your industry, and what's the kind of climate like in the healthcare industry, maybe specifically for doctors, surgeons? What's that like? And how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. I think for me, in uni, I studied up in through the Northern Territory, so it was quite a smaller cohort and community. But I was fortunate enough that I had some connection with down south, so like Victorian Christian Union connection, and also Student Life, which is now Power to Change connection. Which it was really fortunate, and I attended a few of their camps and mid-year camps and annual camps, so it was good. Within my own cohort in Darwin, I think there were a couple of Christians that were not within my own cohort, but like a year above and a year below. So we do meet up like outside of uni hours to get together and just share and pray. So that was uni days.
How would you describe the climate of faith? I know like, I mean, a lot of time has passed since then.
Yes.
But when you were in uni, what was the faith spiritual climate like?
It's a tricky one because I think most of my cohort, they were non-Christians. And I think obviously we were studying science and medicine, so it's very science-based approach. And I think there's a general climate of like if you can't prove it by science, then it's not real. So it's it's not the best climate to be I would say it wasn't the best climate that I was in. Yeah.
And is that the same with just going into the workplace? Did any of that change, or is it literally just exactly the same?
Yeah, I think it's very much the same. I'm going to the workplace. And I think you have to be very intentional as a Christian especially in the hospital, to search out other Christians, to connect together.
Yeah. I guess like, how did you feel that you had enough people in your industry that it made it okay, or like, does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, like I said, like there is like Christian unions, Christian communities within the hospital. That we do meet up on a semi-regular basis. So you do know that there are other Christians around in your workplace. And it's also really good to be plugged in. I was also very fortunate to be plugged into a church community, which some of the doctors and nurses and other allied health staff also attended. So it's good to have that connection both at work and also outside of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know that some people like can sometimes feel quite alone in their industry, whatever that may be, whether it's they don't have, particularly maybe the sciences, where it's all about evidence, facts, research, and all that kind of stuff. Not to say that Christianity doesn't have evidence, but or like even philosophy and stuff like that. So I just wanted to hear what your experience was. I think so when when it comes to the medical field, right, specifically, I think often people tend to struggle with that concept of dream versus like, this is your dream, this is what you want to do, this is what you've always wanted to do, versus other priorities in your life, such as like family, friends, and your faith. And so for people who are in that space, whether it's someone who's in their 20s, just starting out, or somebody who's very advanced, maybe late 20s, who's struggling with like, I have priorities, but then I also have this dream, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think if you have a dream or something that you're really passionate about, it's good to have that. The most important is to have an end goal. What's your end goal? And have steps. I like to work things out quite logically, have steps. What you're going to do, what does it take to reach that dream or reach this goal? And what am I going to do short term, medium term, and long term to reach that goal? Having that in the back of your mind, also actively working towards that. But then a lot of things can happen in between. Life happens, and just being flexible to work around that as well. So having an end goal, but also have the flexibility to have buffer and also to be okay with change of plans.
Because obviously for you had that change of plan, right?
Very big change.
You went from wanting to pursue surgery to then doing the role you're in now. And a big catalyst for that was marriage and wanting to spend time more at home and not being because I mean, like, for those who work in healthcare, you guys know that the hours and the rosters are just not great.
No.
So I guess, was that a tough decision for you? Was that like a wrestling you had, or was it a very easy, like, no, 100%, I'm going to give this up?
I think it was I wouldn't say it was a very tough decision, but it was definitely a lot of thought, asking for wise counsel around me, and a lot of prayer and personal reflection, because I think for me, my priorities and my goals changed. And so like what was very important to me 5 years ago suddenly didn't really matter. It still mattered, but the priority of that thing significantly reduced in my life. So I had different priorities.
What's your current work-life balance like at the moment? Are you happy with it? Is it good? Like, what does that look like?
I'm really blessed and I'm really happy at the moment. It's full-time, but it's as a doctor, having a 9-to-5 job and having the flexibility to, if you need to go for a medical appointment, if you're sick, you can call in sick, somebody can cover for you. Like, I think it almost sounds like a normal basic right that everyone has, but in the hospital system, it's really short staff, so it's quite rare to be rostered. You're never rostered 9-to-5. You essentially have like 10 hours or 12-hour shifts, and then you're on call, and then you're on night shifts. So it's a whole different world.
Yes.
I
guess, like, if you weren't married, do you reckon, would you have still stayed in surgery or pursued GP training?
That's really hard to say, but
it's a big what if.
I think if I wasn't married, maybe I'll still be on the surgical path right now.
I guess, like, okay, switching up to faith is a bit of an interesting switch up. But give us a 1-minute summary of how you came to faith.
Oh, well.
And why you're still a Christian today.
Okay, changing topic. 1-minute summary. Okay, so I've been quite fortunate that I've been brought up in a Christian family. I think I'm a 3rd generation Christian. So I think I've been really lucky that ever since I can remember, I've been told that I need to be at church on Sunday, the Bible stories, what the Christian values are. We need to pray, we need to tithe. All these Christian acts have been ingrained in me since I was a child. But I think it was not until I was 14 or 15, I went to a YWAM camp. It's called Impact Summer, a youth with a mission camp, that I had a personal encounter with God. And I decided to give my life personally to God at that time, and then after that camp, I I got baptized. My dad baptized me. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, and then I guess like why are you still a Christian today?
Why am I still a Christian today? That's Christian. I think since then, I feel like there's so many variables in life. Your health is changing all the time, your personal circumstances, everything is changing all the time. And there's a lot of things that's out of our control. But I think having that Christian faith and knowing that God is with me is a good foundation and a good anchor for me to have that sense of peace and that sense of calm in my life when everything else around my life may not be going so well.
Yeah.
Or so smoothly, I would
Yeah. That makes sense. So kind of bringing it back a little bit back to work.
Yes.
How does your faith affect the way that you see work and the purpose of work?
Yeah. Wow.
I guess like to give a bit of context to that. So I think obviously people see work differently. Some people pursue work because it's a passion for them.
Yeah.
Some people pursue work as it's a dream, like as we were saying.
Yeah.
Some people pursue work purely just for the paycheck.
Yeah.
They're just like, or they just want to earn X amount of money, and to achieve other goals, whether that's to buy a house or to whatever, get a certain car.
Yeah.
I guess like how do you see work and how does faith play into that if it does? Yeah.
I feel like for me currently in my current workplace, even though it's also quite a non-Christian environment, but I feel like wherever I am, whether at work or this workplace or another workplace, God's placed me there at least this point in my life. So I just try to keep that at the back of my mind when I show up to work that I'm here because God wants me to be here. And I just try to do the best I can in the situation I'm currently in. Because as you know, like even though now I'm in a much better work-life balance environment, but it does get like things that do come up during work, like stressful situations, difficult conversations, and people do stress you out or get on your nerves sometimes. But I think I just keep that in the back of my mind. How am I representing Christ well? If I'm representing Christ well, and I'm here because God has placed me here.
Yeah. So I guess it's really just that larger, I guess in a way, eternal perspective. That it's like, yes, there is a practical function that I earn money for my job.
And that's important because I have a mortgage that I need to pay.
Exactly, like practical stuff. But then at the same time, there is a purpose to everything that we do. Which is, God has put us in that place. And, I think, and this kind of leads to my next point, like I think very often you hear a lot of people, maybe especially more Gen Z, struggle with like work being a drag, or it's just like the monotony of work. And obviously it depends on what kind of job you have. Some roles and some jobs are more monotonous than others. Any thoughts on how you like for people particularly feeling that way, like really feeling that dread and feeling that I don't want to get up to work tomorrow. I know there's a practical reason of money. I know there's like that larger purpose, but like practically any kind of advice for people who are in that, how they can redeem that or see things differently.
I think it's just all about your perspective and your personal circumstance as well, because I think it's only since our generation because thinking about our parents' generation, there's no such thing as I don't like my I don't feel like I'm achieving, like I'm not doing my dream job. They go to my parents or like that generation or the earlier generations, they go to work because they need to provide for the family and they need to put food on the table. And work is a means to provide for the family. So yes, like they do have their good days, bad days, but they still show up. I think there's something to learn from that. Because I think we're quite privileged now, especially here in Australia, where the government is quite like we have a lot of benefits, and it's quite a wealthy country, and a lot of us come from quite comfortable families. So working is a different concept. We want to pursue our dreams, and not to say that's bad, but I think it's just a different perspective. Of, like if you have to work because you're the sole income provider to put food on the table for your family, then you're at a different perspective, then I'm only doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this because it's not my passion.
Yeah.
And another thought I had is our feelings are it's very valid, and we do feel things, different things on different days, but it's temporary. So we need to sometimes focus. Yes, like sometimes I wake up and like, I really don't want to go to work today, but I think we just need to focus on the bigger picture on those days. Still got to get up, still commit, focus on the bigger picture of why you're there. But if you've been thinking about why you're there, you really don't know why you're there, maybe you need to be at a different place. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. And I think that's a practical thing, because I think some people are at that crossroads where, especially if they're Gen Z or in their 20s, maybe mid-20s, they've been at their workplace for a long, like not a long time, like a few years.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference, because our parents' generation, baby boomers, they stay at the place the whole life.
Yeah.
So whereas now there's this shift where people are staying at the workplace, like it's just a normal thing to change every 3 to 5 years. There's no loyalty. And I think that's just the generation that we live in, the world that we live in today. But I think what is interesting is that, people are at that crossroads of saying, do I, like, you know, let's just say they are Christians, they are faithful to say God has placed me here.
Yeah.
But then, like, I hate this place, you know?
Yes.
And it's just that practical thing of like, do I move? Do I not move?
Yeah.
You know, and it's also like, you know, practically maybe it's like, it's not enough money to support them, or like, you know, and so I think that's a challenging thing to work through. Yeah.
No, that's definitely valid. But yeah, if you're in that situation, like, and you're really, really struggling, then maybe it may be good to seek wise counsel around you and really pray about it to see if it's the right thing to do to move.
Yeah. So not only are you a leader in your workplace, all right, so maybe just share, what does leadership look like for you in your workplace at the moment?
Yes, so I work. I work in immigration medicals, but currently my role is I'm the team leader or the manager of the doctors within my center, overseeing all the immigration medicals. So currently there are 16 doctors that report to me. So I lead the team of 16 doctors to perform immigration medicals for my medical center. What does leadership look like within my workplace? I think just being mindful of how I come across, and the things that I say really impact people. And so just being really mindful of what comes out of my mouth, and also just really filter it in my brain before I say it.
Yeah.
And also recently, I think I've come to realize that it's quite a lot of times it's good to not say anything, even though there's a lot I can say, but it's good to also just observe and see how people react as well. So
So I guess my sentence wasn't fully complete, but not only are you leading your workplace, but you're also a small group leader at church.
Yeah.
And so essentially that just looks like, you know, you lead this group of people through small group, and you also do a bit of pastoral care, a bit in that, and also just wanting it to grow and facilitate that place. Do you feel that there are overlaps with the leadership skills required? Because they are quite different spaces, different responsibilities. But do you feel like there are overlaps? And if so, like, what have you noticed that have been the overlaps?
I think there are definitely overlaps between, I work now more in a corporate environment in my workplace, but also, within cell group, there are quite a lot of overlaps in terms of, I think, in every aspect, just in terms of everyday tasks, in terms of delegation of tasks, for example. I think performing a task, like, it's good people like seeing that you know what to do, and you know you set the standard of what's expected. So like with my workplace also at Cell, for example, Bible study or like performing a medical examination, like I showed an example to all new people and all like of what it looks like to do the job well and what the standard is, so everyone's aware of what that looks like, what success looks like. So that and then they can work and I can work with them to achieve what they need to achieve.
I guess like for you, what is what's the hallmark of good leadership? Do you feel like what does being a good leader look like, and what does that mean?
There's a couple of words that come to mind. I think like being genuine and being someone with integrity. So like being consistent in what you say and what you do. So don't say one thing and do another thing. Don't say one thing and do another thing. And also like if you like just say don't talk to one person about one thing and then talk to another person about a different thing. Just being transparent and just being overall genuine with everyone. And that's both within the church environment and also within my work environment.
When you first started kind of or had that opportunity to step up as a leader, I believe church came first, then your work. Or have you also been a leader? I guess, a doctor, you kind of also lead in a way. I guess like that step up can be daunting for some people. In the sense that sometimes people feel like they shouldn't be leading. Some people feel like they don't want to lead or they struggle to lead. Maybe share a bit about what that was like for you and maybe for those people who are maybe in that position where they feel like they shouldn't be there or they struggle. What would you say to people in that position?
I think within my current workplace, when I stepped up, I think I was in a place where it wasn't the best leadership before me. And there was a lot of things that I personally wasn't very happy with. And I had a lot of like internal complaints, and when I'm like, if I get to do this job, I will do it better and all these things. But it's not until I stepped into the role, I realized, wow, like I messaged the previously and I apologized and I said, I'm so sorry that I made your life so difficult, because now I see from the different lens. It's such a different, like it's just, you just have to be in it to know the different side. But like, it's just looking at it from the different, like from the non-leader perspective. Obviously there's a lot of improvements that and good feedback that you can take on, but it's a very different perspective that you have as a leader. And I think sorry, what was the main question?
So the main question was just like, for those who are at that place of stepping up into that leadership position, like what advice would you give if they're feeling that maybe someone has tapped them on the shoulder and said, hey, Paul, like, I think you'll make a great leader. You should step up into leadership. Maybe that's cell leadership or, that's a common thing. But then people feel like, but like, I don't know if that's for me. I don't know if I'm a leader. What would you say to people in that?
I would say, I would encourage people to just give it a go. Like, what do you lose? You don't lose anything, right? And so you can only gain like the experience. And if it's really not for you, then you can always step down as a leader. There's no shame in that. I think the experience that you have is very valuable. And just as a personal learning thing, if anything.
Do you feel that anyone can be a leader or everyone should be leaders?
I think we are all leaders in some way. And some...
What do you mean by that?
So I think this is a concept that I've come across probably last couple of years ago, which I found there was a lot of truth to that. Because even though, for example, right now I'm a manager to 16 doctors, so I'm their direct line manager. However, there's leadership going on between each other. You can peer-to-peer leadership. It's very important. Like, the peer pressure, you get influenced by your peers. So that you're leading each other, so peer to peer. And also when I see like one of my team members that's doing something really good and that I've not done before, then he's also teaching me. So in a way that that's like the upwards leadership. So we always think of it like, oh, I'm your manager, you do this, so I lead you. But no, like there's leadership going on different levels. So like downward leadership, which is what everyone knows, but like peer to peer and also upward leadership as well.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I think that's something that we also don't often consider.
Yeah.
That we can lead in not the traditional sense of, as you said, downward leadership.
Yeah.
But do you think downward leadership is something for only select people, or like maybe that's not the best way to phrase it, but as in like, do you think everybody has the ability to lead downward leadership? Because I think like I'm just putting myself in that person's shoes of thinking like, hey, sure, I'm happy to do the peer leadership, but I don't know if I want to do I don't think downward leadership. Even maybe let's just say they've already tried it and they've stepped up into it. Yeah,
I would say you wouldn't know unless you've tried.
Yep.
But yeah, like definitely it's not for everyone. And some people we all have different talents and different gifts. And so a lot of times you just need to try it to know that whether or not it's one of your gifts. So yeah, give it a go. But yeah, I would say no, it's probably not for everyone. And I think there's different personalities and different characteristics that, which in different leaders are good. But yeah, there's some are more suitable and some are less suitable.
Yeah. I think it's true. I think like when we look at leadership, especially in the church, particularly, I think there's this kind of thing that I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed as well, that there is a general hesitancy for people to step up into leadership positions, especially in the church. Maybe in the workplace as well. I don't know. I'm not in the workplace, so I can't comment. Why do you feel that there is that hesitancy? And have you noticed that for the first?
Yeah, I have noticed that, and I think it's both in the workplace and in the
that's interesting.
in the church. Yeah, because
do you think the reasons are the same for both?
I think there are some similarities, and I think it is a bit blunt, but I don't know. Like I think for me to say, but I think it's very easy to find the fault and also complain about things. But if you, I feel like it's quite, but it's a lot more difficult to find the solution to what you're complaining about. As in like, so there's a lot of problems. Like a lot of people can point out the flaws in their leaders or in a situation, but they don't necessarily want to contribute to fix the problem or fix the flaw.
Why do you think that is, though?
I think
because I think because I remember you said that when you were stepping up into your leadership, you had this attitude of like, I want to do better.
Yes.
So obviously that didn't apply to you because you were like, this is an issue. I'm going to fix it myself.
Yeah.
Whereas there are definitely still people out there like that, but then I think the majority is just like they don't. You're like so.
It depends on what where your mind is at, and what your perspectives are. I think like some people, I don't know, as mean as it sounds, I think they just want to complain for the sake of complaining, right? And then like there's always something that you can point out that's like this cup is placed in the wrong position, you know. So. But yeah, for me, I think like if I wanted to complain about something or like I have an issue with, if I think something can be done right, I always of the opinion that I want to do it the right way and just like tell the right person to see if something can be changed. And so I was fortunate that I had the opportunity to try to foster the change within my current workplace that I wanted to see change, but it was a lot harder than
you initially thought.
I initially anticipated.
In a way, you were humbled in a way.
I was very humbled.
And I was just like, okay, I understand why it's hard.
There
was something which I kind of heard recently. So I went to a conference in KL, as you know, and I asked. They had a Q&A. It was like about leadership, and there was like literally the title of that panel was "Help, I Don't Have Enough Leaders." And the question that I asked was, I feel that a lot of people are hesitant to step up because they don't want commitment, they don't want responsibility.
Yes.
And I think what this guy said was really true. He said that nowadays people don't want to step up into leadership because there's cancel culture. Like if you as a leader say something that people disagree with, you get cancelled.
Yeah.
Number two, if you say something that people disagree with, they stop talking to you. So it may not be fully cancelled, but you lose your friends and it's not a great position to be in. So like leadership is not attractive anymore compared to previously. And it's just like, it's very bleak. Leadership is just like, no one likes it. And I think something else was that he said that there is now like Gen Z and millennials have a huge distrust of like those like leadership and those in powers of authority. There's just this general distrust, right? Because I think a lot of our great role models, even in the faith, are stumbling, and they're like falling away. And so that is also just kind of like, these great leaders that we looked up to. So I think leadership has taken a hit. But then the thing that he really wanted to hone in on was that although, yes, people don't want to step up into leadership because of these reasons, those that do step up into leadership really want to be there. Like especially your Gen Z and your millennials, because they know what's at stake. And I think that's just really, that was just really such a clear thing to really flip it on its head. That yes, it's a very negative thing. It's challenging, but it means that those who are willing, like you really invest in those people. But I think on a practical sense, if you do want to have people step up into leadership, I think a great way is to just lower the bar a little bit. That's what he said. Because I think sometimes we, as millennials, sometimes we raise the bar too high. And we say, okay, if you want to be a leader, you have to achieve this. But it's just like, it's just, the Gen Zs look at that and they're like, that's just too hard. Like I can't ever reach there. So I think it's lowering the bar for that. So I thought that was quite good. I guess to round out the leadership segment, what's a recent leadership principle or lesson that you have learned, whether that's from leading at work or even leading in small group?
Leadership principle. Oh, wow.
Or like a lesson. Yeah. Something that you've learned.
Yeah, I think like it's just, it's hard. I think it's not, it's definitely easier. It's a lot easier when you look at it from a non-leader's perspective, but when you're actually in that position, I think it's quite hard because decisions that you make and the things that you say really has weight. And so I think I learned to be a lot more careful with what comes out of my mouth when I speak to people, and also be when I speak to people, I'm quite intentional about my goals and agenda, what I want to achieve. Because some things can be taken out of context, and then it can it has more weight than before.
Having said that, then why should people then be a leader? Because I guess people will say like, okay, then if it's too hard, then I'm just not going to do it.
I think the thing is like, I think it's a good opportunity. I still, even though it's hard, I think it's a good learning. It's good learning, and it's also you're able to be at a position where you can see change, and you can be a part of making that change.
So it's still rewarding.
I think it's hard, but it's rewarding. I'm not trying to scare off potential leaders, but it's I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, because it's not like it's not all rainbows and sunshines, right? So but there are very rewarding parts.
All right, let's switch to finance. I think that's something that is often an interesting topic, especially for Gen Z nowadays. So kind of putting yourself in like the Gen Z shoes, because I think it's a bit unfair for us to say, when we were 20 years old, because I think time is different. Times have changed. So I guess trying to put yourself in their shoes, for someone who's just started working, what are some key things that you would suggest for them to do to be wise about their finances?
Have a budget. I think, because that's something I had to learn along the way, because I think some people are quite fortunate because they come from a family that's quite financial savvy, or like their parents may teach them about finance and how to do your taxes and all these things. But personally, I didn't have any of that. So when I first started earning income as a doctor, which it was from no money as a broke medical student to earning a doctor's wage. Yeah. So I was buying the things that I couldn't buy before, going to, but I think just having a clear goal of what your financial goals are, having a budget of, okay, like this week, this is how much maximum my budget for groceries and things, my bills, and just having a clear budget and a goal. What you want to achieve. Yeah.
I guess budgeting is something that I think a lot of people would agree with. Yeah. But then how you budget things percentage wise can be different for each person.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you, and I know this is purely this is not financial advice. Yes. It's just purely entertainment and entertainment value. So we're not giving financial advice. So it's just the interesting topic. But I guess and I know it's a very personal decision, but for you, if you're willing to share, how do you determine how much of your income goes where?
Yeah. Okay. So yes, not financial advice, but I think prior to owning, because now I have a house, so it's a bit different. But when
let's just say, no, you're not married, you're single, no mortgage.
Yeah. Okay. So I think personally, I was doing the percentage wise. Yep. So I was quite quite a large percentage. So 50% was for my daily needs and my daily needs, and also paying the bills, I was renting an apartment at the time, fuel and your everyday needs. And then I had 20%, which I saved into a savings account. Yep. And then I invested 10%. I invested 10% into either stocks or Vanguard. Shout out to Vanguard. And then and then another 10%. I just had a thing that I pay, help my parents with their ministries, and also tithe as a Christian with tithe. Yep. So
was that different from? So that was obviously from working. What about as a student? Did you budget at all as well?
It was a bit different it was similar principle as a student, but obviously my finances was a lot less. But I think the tithing was always the same. I think it was just ingrained in me that if I was given $10, $1 needs to be in the tin in Sunday school. Yeah. But I think when I was student days, whatever scholarship money I had or Centrelink or youth allowance money that I had was just or I didn't have any savings essentially. It was just for
just living expenses.
Living expenses, renting, and also food and things.
Yeah. I guess touching on giving and tithing, I would consider you to be one of the most generous people that I know, not only in your finances but also with your time. Where do you think that comes from? And is that, maybe that's the first question. Where do you think that generosity, because you said from an early age you knew that you wanted to give and tithe, where did that come from?
I think a lot of it came from my upbringing, I have to say, because I think my parents were quite generous people, and I think from a young age I was taught and ingrained in me that I think whatever we have is not ours. Actually, it belongs to God, and we're stewards of what God's given to us. So I think just being able to separate, when I was given $10 of pocket money, I think being given that $1 to church or into Sunday school funds, I think set a good trajectory for me, because I think giving $1 is quite easy, but then if it's your paycheck of $1,000 or $10,000 and giving that $1,000 away is a lot harder if you so I think starting from small is where it comes from and I think at the end of the day our God is a generous God. So we're just trying my best to reflect what the Christian values and what Christian life should look like, and also and I think recently I've been reflecting that I'm quite fortunate and blessed to be in a position where I can, with my finances also and also with my time, to help those that aren't so fortunate or as blessed as me. So I think it's quite a privileged position that I'm in. So I want to be able to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of already linked the next question, which I have, which was, is financial generosity for, like, should everyone, especially Christians, be financially generous, or is that not for everybody?
I think it should be for everyone, because it's not necessarily you need to. It's like I remember, this reminds me of the story of the widow who gave 2 copper coins, right? So like, if it's God, I don't think God's demanding, or like it's anyone's demanding that you give a certain amount of money or be generous with a certain. It's just the act of being willing to share, and also I think being willing to share what you have with another person. It doesn't have to be like your whole life saving, but just like giving even like a little bit, or not even finances, just your time to other people. Yeah.
I think there are some who, especially when it comes to talking about money and giving and tithing and offering, whatever that conversation.
Yeah.
There are people who often feel that, maybe they want to be generous, but they can't because they feel like they don't have enough, or maybe they literally don't have enough.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
You mean finance wise?
They want to be like that whole principle of, our God is a generous God, and like giving. Now, of course, we mentioned that we can give in other ways, like our time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I guess specifically to money.
Yeah.
Like what are your thoughts on people who say that, they don't have enough to give or to be generous?
Yeah. I think like if you're in a particular situation like where it's not possible, then like that's I don't think like you're doing anything wrong. But I think like if we as a Christian, if you're a non-Christian, this does not apply. And I think why would you do that, right? But as a Christian, I think if we really believe that our money is not our own and we're stewards of God's money, then maybe it's worth looking at how you're stewarding God's money, because if how are you really how are you stewarding God's money well if you're not able to invest into God's kingdom, right? So
you said it doesn't apply to non-Christian, though. I think in a sense that the principle that it is more blessed to give than to receive, I think applies to everybody, whether you're Christian or not. I think it is truly more of a blessing to give to others than it is to receive. And I think there is a place where I think even if you're not a Christian, that it is a good principle to be generous with your money and to give to those in need. So maybe it might not be you give to a church, but giving to, the poor, people on the street, giving to like causes and stuff like that. I think there is that sense of generosity also helps with stuff like greed and like that kind of stuff that is, yes, it's a Christian concept, but I think it is still also very practical. We don't want to be greedy people. We don't want to be filled with like, hoarding and stuff like that. And I think that generosity spirit does help to balance that out in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so the last kind of category is just like a general one. I just had like these random questions about, particularly if people face maybe who are maybe late 20s or maybe mid 20s, questions that they may have. So I think traveling solo, should people do that?
Yes. I think like if you're single, especially, I think I would definitely recommend it because
What if they're not single?
if you're not single and you're traveling solo, like if you're married and you're just ditching your partner at home and traveling solo, I think that's a bit inconsiderate of your partner. But if you're single, if you're not married and you have the opportunity to travel, my advice, and it's what I did as well, that I just travel if you can. See the world. I'm always a fan of seeing how other people from different cultures, different parts of the world do things.
What's one thing you regret not doing in your 20s?
One thing I regret not doing in my 20s. I wouldn't say regret, but I think like if I didn't study medicine, I would have traveled a lot more. Because like I didn't have even though I did a few electives abroad, but I think if I had the opportunity to do my degree in a different country or do more traveling within my course and during my uni years, I would have really I think I would have enjoyed that. Yeah.
So I guess like wanting to just having more
time to travel. Yeah.
The concept of starting, so this is not really for those in the 20s, but maybe like late 20s, early 30s, the concept of starting from scratch. From 30s. What's your take on that? Good reasons for, good reasons against. Like, what's your take on that? It can be quite daunting.
Yeah, it is. Like starting from like studying a new course or like doing a new career. It's very daunting. I think hats off to whoever who's doing that, and I think it's a very brave thing. And if that's what you've decided to do, or your life circumstance has brought you to this place, then do it. You have to start somewhere, and I think, just take it one day at a time. Yeah.
I guess, do you believe in the concept that there reaches a point in your life where it's too late?
I think you can always learn. You can always learn. But in terms of career-wise, like if you're in your 60s and you're retraining, if that's your life circumstance, then you have to do what you have to do. Not really, because you just do what life throws at you. Take one day at a time.
This was one of the comments from the Instagram post. When do you stop feeling like you're behind in life?
That's a good question. I think, especially in today's day and age, where we're on Instagram, on Facebook, and you can see what other people are doing across the world in 1 second. And I think we have when we post on Instagram, most people always post the best version of themselves, all the success stories, but the struggles and a lot of the things that didn't go well, the failures are not posted. But what the content that's being fed to us is, wow, everyone's doing better than me. Everyone's has a better house than me, has a better car than me, has a bigger bank account than me. And look at this person in America. He's younger than me, but he's doing better than me in life. So if we're in that mindset, I think you'll never feel like you always feel like you're behind. You never feel like you've caught up, you've made it, because yes, like if your goal is to earn $1 million, when you get $1 million, there's people who has $2 million. So that's
the next one.
That's the next one. So you can never have enough. I think it's just a mindset thing. I'm very guilty of this myself, but I just have to remind myself to be content with what God's given me as well. And I think going back to being generous and also tithing or offering or donating to the poor, these things, I think being able to give a portion of our finances or things to other people really like puts things into perspective, and also helps me with comparing with other people.
No, I do like that answer, and in a way, I guess in a way in line with you, the way I would answer it is: so when do you stop feeling like you're behind in life? That's up to you. It's like you can do that when you're 18 years old, or you can choose to do that when you're 50. It's like it's a mindset that when that's when you stop comparing with other people.
Yeah.
And it's like your choice
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah,
So, no,
for sure.
I agree. This one's an interesting one. Which one is better? Spending the rest of your life with a job you hate but having a lot of money, or doing the job that you really love but not getting much money? Which would you take?
That's I really don't like answering that question because if I have enough money to provide for my family, I think I would choose the latter. But then if you're saying
As in you would have a job that you love but not have enough.
If it's not having enough money,
the question is won't get much money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's up to you how you interpret that.
Yeah, I think
I guess feeling that we probably could have more if we.
Yeah. But then again, you can always have more. Right? But yeah, I think having just enough, having food on the table, having clothes on our bodies, not going hungry, not being cold, having a place to sleep, a roof over my head. Basic necessities. I'm content. Because there's the lifestyle creep that you can always have a better lifestyle. Yeah. You can always upgrade your flights, you upgrade your hotels, and the list goes on. So yeah.
Yeah. So you choose that.
Yeah.
Last question. When it comes to making decisions or approaching choices, should you I think the question is phrased in a way that I don't like, so I'm going to rephrase it. So when it comes to making decisions or life choices or whatever it is, when is it wise to trust your intuition or your gut? And when is it wise to choose more rationally or analytically?
Oh, that's what situation? Is it
or just maybe because the question was exactly phrased as, should you trust your intuition or gut feeling when making decisions, or approach choices more rationally and analytically?
Yeah.
But I recognize that it can't always be one or the other.
Yep.
So I was thinking maybe when maybe you can reflect on your life, when have been moments where. Because I think maybe rational and analytical might be the default that maybe we're taught we need to think through things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when are situations where sometimes you just got to trust your gut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, there's a lot of situations where sometimes just science doesn't. You can't analyze the situation. It's just So I think I'm more towards the trust your gut. Obviously I'm analytical and I follow logic. And if something really logically doesn't make sense, but my gut is telling me to do it, I'll be very torn, and I would pray and I would ask for advice. But I think I'm more towards if at the end of the day, if it's something not very, very obviously, very obvious, I would lean more towards trusting my gut. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I like that. I think, I guess, for me, I'll probably generally I'm a bit more. I try to be a bit more rational and go think through things. But I think at the end of the day, I would also probably just listen to my gut, because I think everybody's different.
Yeah.
So I think some people tend to do the kind of gut feeling better. Some people tend to do rational a bit better. But I think maybe the lesson from that question is that I think there are times where you have to switch.
Yeah.
Some things just won't make sense.
Yeah.
And you just gotta do it and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we end off and go into our lightning round, do you have any kind of just general advice or kind of last comments for our Gen Z listeners?
Gen Z listeners.
You can direct the camera if you want.
Oh, hello, Gen Z listeners. No, I think just enjoy life. Enjoy the time that you have now, the time that God's given you. I think it's a privilege to be here, to be alive, and to be healthy. I think I'm not that old, but I am starting to be. I am in my 30s now, so I think I am noticing having good health is actually so important. It's something that I took for granted, especially in my 20s. So I think just keep doing things that promotes good health. I think like whatever you do, what you invest in your 20s will set you up for your 30s. And likewise, now I'm thinking what I'm doing in my 30s is planning for what happens in my 40s.
Yep.
So just make good, healthy decisions, good financial decisions, and yeah, just think more long term as well. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, lightning round. Just really random questions. So just whatever comes on top of your head, right? Don't think too hard.
All right.
What's your favorite thing to do to wind down nowadays?
Probably watch a show on Netflix.
Okay, just anything that is on your feed, or like, do you have a particular genre that you like?
If I was by myself, I would watch something like action related,
Okay,
like
yep.
action comedy, or like action related.
Yep.
But if I was with my wife, then we'll probably watch something more comedy or like
Yep.
more family friendly, cartoony, or Korean drama.
Yeah. Sweet or savory?
I'm a savory guy.
Savory guy.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a savory too. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Oh man. Okay. iPhone or Android?
Android.
Android, very good. What's a hot take that you have?
Hot take.
Yeah.
Oh, is it like a quote or like?
Or just like an opinion that is not widely accepted as the opinion.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
like a controversial thing.
Yeah, I guess. So like a hot take could be like, pineapple on pizza is amazing.
Oh,
That could be a hot
right.
take. Yeah.
Ooh, can we come back to that
Okay, we'll
one?
come back to it. What's one thing that you're reminding yourself of lately / daily?
I think just to look at the bigger picture and trying to not get stressed out by my current environment. Just look at things from a bigger perspective.
Yeah. What's a recent book that you read that you would recommend?
A recent book that I read. A book that I read not so recent, probably a couple of years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. It's called Just Do Something.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's a very short.
Who's it by? Okay.
You have to
just do something.
Just do something, or we'll search it up. But yeah, I think it's a Christian themed book, but it's not like it doesn't have a lot of Bible. It doesn't have Bible verses.
Sure.
It's by a Christian author, but it's essentially of the principle of like for Christians, I think a lot of us we're stuck in a position of indecision of like, should I do this or should I take this job? Should I apply to this thing? Should I date this person? Should I not date this person? And you're just stuck in indecision.
Yeah.
I think the book should say just do something and then
see what happens.
See what happens. Yeah.
That's true. No, I love that. What's a movie that you feel that everyone should watch?
Ooh, a movie that everyone should watch.
Can be for whatever reason. Could just be because I like the movie.
The Avengers Endgames.
Okay. Yeah. True. Yeah. Can you think of a hot take?
Hot take. Nah,
That's
I can't think of
pass.
it.
That's fine.
Pass.
What's last one? What's one piece of advice that you were given that has shaped your life?
I have to think about this one. I've been fortunate to be given quite a lot of advice. Do you have any advice that you've been given that shaped how you live?
I have one, and I know who said it, but I can't remember what it was. I think it's maybe this is one. This is from my mom. She said that it sounds very simple, but I think it can be profound especially when you don't remember. But every situation, God is trying to teach you something. And so it's like asking God, if you're in a situation, asking God, what are you trying to teach me through this?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes helps to pull you out of that situation, that it's kind of like, actually, instead of me complaining, instead of me like saying, God, why are you doing this? But it's just like, okay, God, you're doing this. What are you trying to teach me?
Yeah, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
I don't think I can't think of one from the top of my head, but I can think of one thing. I think I was at a point, I think when I was questioning my faith, when I was 14, 15, I remember asking one of my aunties, what if like whatever we believe in, like in Christianity is actually not real and we've just wasted all of our time and like people just think we're so silly doing everything that we do, going to church, sing songs. Like, what if it's all for nothing? And then I think she said something that really stuck with me even till now today. She said, well, at least if it was real, then you would be going to heaven at the end of your life. And then you wouldn't have lost anything. Then but if you didn't believe in it and it ended up to be real, then you would have missed out. Right. So, you know what I mean? It's just like, so you don't lose anything by believing in God. Right. Yeah. So I think, so I was like, oh, that's an interesting take. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, interesting take. I think I know people who probably are thinking of this passage, but there's that passage where Paul talks about how if everything that we believe is not true, we are the greatest. Something about I'm paraphrasing, but it's like we are cute, great fools.
Yes.
So in a way, it's interesting because I think when people ask that question, or what if it's not true, then I think as Christians we should be mocked at or have the greatest. But I think the reason that Paul says that is that we actually do have a very reasonable faith.
Yes.
And it is something that we are willing to face that mockery if it is not true.
Yeah.
You know? But I think the resurrection of Jesus is undeniable.
Yes.
And I think that there's just so much evidence for it that no matter what your belief is on or any other kind of topic that you can bring up, I think at the end of the day, everything hinges on the resurrection of Jesus. Because if that is possible, any other miracle is possible.
Yeah.
So then then creation is possible, then healing is possible. So But I think that was the first thing which I thought of when, because I know some people say that at least I lived a good life, which I think is not a really good answer either.
Yeah.
Because then it's just what did you, yes, you may have done good stuff, but then in a way, you gave your whole life to this thing that wasn't real. And so I think Paul was just very honest and real in that moment.
Yeah. No, fair.
Yeah.
Fair. No,
Oh, all right. That's the end of our podcast and our time. So thank you so much for joining. Do you have any last words?
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been really great to have this conversation.
Yeah.
It's really thankful for the work that you've been doing. Thankful to be here and hope our conversation is able to help our listeners. Yeah,
definitely. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you mind just praying for any Gen Z who is listening? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Sure. Yeah. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we're able to hop on this podcast with Pastor James. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to go through a lot of the questions that may come up in our 20s and even in our 30s, Lord. Just pray that for whoever's listening out there, just pray that you can really be so real to them and speak to them individually and be a personal God. Even if they don't know you, Lord, just pray that you can reveal yourself to them and just pray that they're able to know that you're a real and personal God and you're in your presence and you're there to help them, to guide them, Lord. Thank you, and pray all this in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you. So thanks for joining on the JC podcast. If you found this episode helpful and you think maybe someone else would benefit, please do share it with other people. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, and hopefully on YouTube as well. If you're watching this, please subscribe or please, follow us and join us on this journey. Especially if you like this series, please give us feedback. You can message me, DM me on Instagram @_James Chia, or you can email me if you like to use email, jameschia.ministries@gmail.com. Love to hear your feedback. Love to hear any potential future topics that you'd like to hear as well. But thank you so much for joining us, and I hope it has blessed you, and have a great week ahead. God bless.